Hello, everyone. My name is Mirna, and on behalf of the Mindalia TV team, welcome to Mindalia live streaming, where thousands of people around the world gather daily to see the lectures and interviews organized by Mindalia TV. Today, our dear Sunny Chayes, whom is not only the host of the show, but also the host of ABC Solutionary Sundays. She is the featured writer and chief strategist for Whole Life Times, the longest running conscious life magazine in America. Sunny is a producer, a moderator, and a mythbuster, among many other talents. We are going to be having a very interesting conversation with Trina Wyatt. But before starting with them, we want to remind you that Mindalia's mission is to share information that can help raise the level of consciousness in the planet, and you can help us by subscribing to our channel, leaving us a positive comment down this video, or sharing it with someone that you know that can benefit of the content that we're going to be talking here today. Also, when we are live streaming, we have an active chat. It's the screen you're going to be seeing here on my side or under the screen. If you're following us from a smartphone, we invite you to interact with us. You can also collaborate with Mindalia with your own valuable content, not only in English through Mindalia TV English, but you can also do it in Portuguese through Mindalia Televisão and Spanish through Mindalia Televisión. Visit our different channels and platforms, Facebook pages, Instagram accounts, and follow us. When you do that, you are not only helping us reach as much people in the planet as possible, but you also keep yourself updated with the amazing information we have there on a daily basis. I'm not going to delay this any further, and I have the very great pleasure of saying, Sunny, welcome to Mindalia once again. How are you?
Good morning. I'm doing so well. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Happy to be here once again with you and looking forward to the conversation that we're going to be having.
Oh, well, I wanted to just first of all say that I loved our conversation last week about the environment and about all the different tips we can do. And one thing I wanted to add to that conversation that I think is so important is one other tip that makes a huge difference is what we do with our trash. So, in other words, when we wrap up our bags, and hopefully we're using our bread bags that we had before, or that we, or some kind of plastic that has come in something, so we use it twice at least. Make sure it's sealed with a contain, something that seals it, because a lot of the trash that gets into our rivers and oceans and just on the side of the street is when the trash goes from our trash bin to the big trash truck, and then what they do when they take it. So I just wanted to add that because that's a big one. And again, we were chatting about all the single things that we can do as humans. So that's another big one that makes a huge impact, and it's really easy for us to do. So I wanted to throw that into our conversation.
Definitely. It's never too late to say it, and we are very worried and trying to actually make actions to protect the environment and the animals that get so harmed with all the disposable things. You know what I do, and we didn't talk about it last week, with the when we get cans, how do you call the plastic thing that keeps the cans together?
Oh my gosh, go ahead. It's just the rings.
The rings, I cut them all.
You
My mom
know,
saw me the other day and I was like, what are you doing? No, I can't leave one of those together. If I'm going to throw them, because I have to, cut them so they are not harmful.
you just read my mind, because the next thing I was going to say was when I was a little girl, probably 10 years old, that's how the drinks used to come, like beers or Cokes or whatever. And it had those rings. And we would just break them. And even there's like a little ring inside, like the big rings, and then there are the three little rings that are created. And we would cut those or rip those too. So I mean, that's something I've been doing for, I'm embarrassed to say how many years.
We're so grateful
Well,
you do it.
these things can uplift us, and I'm so excited today that we're going to be talking about entertainment and the not only the need for uplifting entertainment, but how super healthful it is. And when we chat with Trina when she comes on, I know she's going to hear this ahead of time, but I just wanted you to know that, we love Dr. Sue, and we've talked about Dr. Sue Morter a lot on this show. And she has practitioners who do a lot of great body work that's unobtrusive. So it's energy work. And I was just noticing that my liver was really kind of bugging me a little bit. And I thought, okay, I need to stop eating chocolate. I know that. But what I was actually realizing was that I was so involved with all of the political stuff that's been going on in the last, well, since Trump was elected, to be honest. And I've been watching everything much more than I normally do. And, I have family in politics and everything, so it's kind of my world. But I was just noticing that I was watching so much more than was good for me because I kept waiting for some hope. I realized it was like I was almost addicted because I was thinking if I watch Rachel Maddow or I watch Anderson Cooper or I watch something, they're going to say something that's positive that's happening. And I was realizing painfully that that was kind of not happening because there's so many things happening behind the scenes that really upset me. And so I thought for myself, which is so against what I feel because I feel like I need to be a conscious activist. But I was realizing it was actually causing my liver to hurt me. And so right now I'm taking a little bit of a cleanse that way. I did watch the debates last night because I did it in a fun way. I went to the Hammer Museum in LA here, where we all watched it together. They had great pundits after, they had popcorn, they had an open bar. So it was definitely the way to watch, I have to say. So I thought if there's a way that I can interject myself where it feels somehow hopeful, fun, entertaining. And I know that sounds super superficial because I'm normally so not that way. I'm so much deeper and everything. But for right now, I was just noticing how much it's just really been working on me
I love it.
physiologically.
I love that you bring that up. You know what my story is and how important was politics for me, considering where I'm coming from. And I purged myself from all that. You know what? I can't do anything but my own lifestyle. And I, at a certain point, realized that probably my need of being involved and knowing whatever was going on around me, probably it was more an ego thing. Probably it was because I wanted and I needed to know whatever was happening so I could interject in conversations and debate wisely. And
Yeah.
then I was like, you know what? I don't need it. I don't need it. I can't stay away from that. And maybe it's not the wisest decision, but it's the one that has made me feel better with myself. And it's as it's helping me also heal from all that
Well,
PPTSD, as I call it, political post-traumatic stress disorder.
well, and we're sort of it's almost not even post traumatic in a way because we're just in it all the time because things continue to,
No.
happen. And my struggle with it has been, and I should finish my sentence. I should get better at that. My struggle with that has been that I feel that the people who say, "Oh no, 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 it's just bad for my aura or it's bad for my chakras. I can't be involved in knowing that there are people who are starving or the people who need help in Rwanda or down in East LA or in Venezuela. Oh, I can't be bothered. I just want to sit on my own mat and say, oh, I've had a problem with that because I feel like it's my own inner, struggle. And as you know, I've talked to Michael Beckwith about this, Marianne Williamson. I mean, so many masters of um, of spirituality. I mean, Mark Nepo, Rinpoche's. How do we balance that to be responsible global citizens and not be too mired by it, so that our energy can stay positive and we can uh, continue expanding our vibration and expanding our happiness and all of that. And so I find it a balance. Again, my favorite word, balance. And so I feel like I was out of balance, and yeah, so kind of like that.
And I think that in this point is where there's going to be a very good introduction for Trina. Because
Exactly.
one of the things that I realized is that probably the sources I was getting the information from, it wasn't the healthiest source.
Right.
Regardless of the wing that you're looking at, it wasn't the healthiest source. And
Mhm.
there was some sort of more thing.
Agenda.
And I was getting into that. So what can I do from here without getting washed and traumatized and getting into all that toxic, not good. Well, what we're doing,
And
educating
then
people, educating people. You can still do it without, being on that rail.
that's it. And I've just gotten back to listening to Abraham Hicks every morning and just kind of having 15 minutes of that just
Everything is going well for me.
Ooh, yeah, well, and just the fun of Abraham Hicks, just the depthness of what's really going on. And so again, I think it's the balance. And so I'm so excited that Trina Wyatt has created this idea for us. And luckily, she's not alone. There are a few organizations and networks like Mindalia TV who just choose to bring the conscious good to the people in music, in conversation, in movies, in written word, and all of that. And so that there's a place where people can feel safe. It's like going to Whole Foods, how Whole Foods used to be, where you could go in and know everything in there was healthy for you. It's like you can go to Conscious Good and know that everything you're going to be introduced to and click on and whatever is going to be something that's uplifting and deep and conversation that is bringing out some substance, of course, in our life, and uplifting, again, I say. So let's bring Trina Wyatt onto our conversation. Good morning, Trina.
Good morning.
Hi.
Hi, thank you for having me. It's such a pleasure to be with you two wonderful women.
Thank you. So you were listening to our conversation.
Oh, I was loving it. I couldn't wait to jump in.
Jump on in then.
Well, you bring up such good points, and I think the one thing I'd like to add is this idea of what we're feeding, what we're voting with, really almost every minute of the day. And if we tune in to fear-based media that is sensationalizing the facts instead of presenting the facts for us to look at in a more objective, balanced way, then we're just going to get more of the same. So we vote with our, at the ballot, we vote with our dollars or our, euros, whatever currency we're using. We vote with our attention and the energy that we put towards something. So I just think it's being very, very careful, very selective of where we put our time, energy, and our dollars, and in knowing that we have much more power to create the world we want to live in than we give ourselves credit for.
Again, thank you for that. And last week we were talking about, as you heard in the beginning of the conversation, the environment, and I was bringing up it's a big area for me and has been for many, many years. So just all the small power of one, my favorite phrase, things that we can do today, every day, and model for our kids, model for our community, model for the person behind us in the grocery store. I remember years ago when people just took plastic bags, it wasn't a thought, and I would never take a plastic bag, or almost never, and then I would kind of thank the person behind me because they would sort of get the idea and they would say, oh, I don't need one either, and I would think, okay, that's just one more plastic bag, it's my action, and they got the idea. And then a couple years later, the shift happened in the grocery stores which I asked a lot. I would go to the managers and say, can you just ask the people to ask the people if they need a bag? Because sometimes it's just this automatic thing. So can we take that extra step to say, do you want a bag? And then often people will say, no, it's cool, I'll throw it in my purse. So it's those little actions that we do. And what you do is big little actions with your conscious good. I'd love to let people know more about it because instead of doing a long drawn out introduction, I thought I'd let you fill us in a little bit.
Sure. Well, yeah. So we at Conscious Good, we believe in the power of visual storytelling to raise awareness, to elevate consciousness. So we're primarily focused around storytelling. And, we really envision a world where every being feels connected to themselves, to each other, into something greater. And that something greater can be nature. We welcome and honor all traditions, all spiritual traditions, even atheism. So again, it's about finding that balance. But the way that we feel that we can best realize this vision is sort of with three main initiatives. So the very first initiative is what we've been talking about, is just raising awareness for the impact that what we watch has on our psyche and well-being. And just raising that awareness, no finger wagging, no judgments, just, like you were saying about Whole Foods or our diet, just, hey, I don't feel so good when I eat McDonald's French fries. Maybe I shouldn't be eating those every day, So it's just raising that awareness. The other thing that we are doing is we're growing the audience for conscious media. We're trying to make quality conscious media more readily available to more people. And one of the initiatives that we have our website. Everything that you see on our website now is primarily short form, but it's free. And then we also have a monthly film series where we take really exceptional feature films that are for our audience, those who would be watching now. And we take them on a monthly basis to spiritual centers, yoga studios, meditation studios, really grassroots marketing for these exceptional feature films. And then thirdly, we support the creators, the visual storytellers who are committed to raising consciousness through their work. We want them to be able to find one another, to collaborate, to feel supported, to give them opportunities to meet each other, to grow professionally and personally. And we do that through our Creators Network. So the Conscious Good Creators Network, which is right now hosted by Mighty Networks. So I would say these are sort of the three primary things that we're doing. And we have, a lot of other plans in store, which I'd be happy to, as soon as I can, I will announce those.
Well, that's so fantastic. And Trina, have you found, first of all, I want to say that I so appreciate a couple of these aspects. And this is something that I think can be replicable in kind of a bigger way. And that is noticing, identifying a need, and it's the high, in other words, people talk about, oh, there's so much negative, TV, or it's just bubblegum, or it's actually negative or dark. Oh, wham, 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 complaining about it. And then, so you've identified that there's a need then for the other side of that, for, fully positive music, movies, short film, just all of that. And then again, the written word. And then you found a way also to use it as a community of all these creative people that are doing it here, there, and everywhere. And then they're all coming together to say, whoa, not only supporting each other, like you go girl stuff, but also promoting it to their social media groups. And, in other words, so it's such a great model for what we can do in so many different ways. It kind of chokes me up, actually. It's like moms finding a great idea that they see a need in their community that doesn't work, for their kids, and then they find something and then they grow it in that three-pronged way, that triangle that you've created. So I applaud you for specifically what you're doing and also for the model.
Well, thank you so much. And what I like to acknowledge is there are so many individuals on this planet who are waking up, and they're starting to ask themselves, well, how can I contribute to the world? How can I help raise consciousness or just make the world a better place? And so for me, it was just looking at my background. I got into business, but I've always, worked in the entertainment and film side of industry because I've just always loved visual storytelling. And I've been practicing yogi and meditator for a couple decades. And I just, how can I make a difference? What unique skills and gifts can I contribute to this global awakening? And for me, I see it happening in so many different areas, whether it's architecture, technology, it's people are saying, what can I do? How can I contribute? So it's very exciting.
Well, it's a creative flow that's happening. I feel that that's always been with us. It's not ever not been. And what's great is the timing. You know, I find that I've been a clothes designer, I've been a musician, I've done different things in my life, and I've really noticed the flow of things. When you hit something right as the wave is cresting, it can really happen. And often people have been ahead of their time. I mean, we can count many, many artists who were ahead of their time and died penniless, and now their works sell for millions of dollars. I mean, it's about when the audience kind of says yes to it, when the collective consciousness says yes to it. So I think, not to say that there hasn't been conscious media or from the beginning of conscious media in books and plays, and then movie, you know, the silent movies, and then talkies, and, you know, I mean, there have been messages, like you say, the storytelling has been there. Oh my God, Grapes of Wrath. I mean, you know what, I'm just thinking of different things that have come before this time.
Yes.
And now it's like we're giving ourselves permission to say, oh, you know, it's okay. I can just revel in the consciousness of good in art. You may use that. In our entertainment, you know, and of course for our kids, or even when we get together. You know, like when I was saying about going to see the debate last night. I mean, it was created in, you know, kind of a fun and entertaining way, so that it was, you know, it just was way better in community. So
yes, that is so important. That connection is, you know, we rephrased our vision statement when we realized that we want to welcome people who may not understand what consciousness means. And so we were trying to find language that, well, what can everyone relate to? And this idea of connection is just so critical, and connecting live in your community. I think so much of the ills of our society stem from disconnection, right? Addiction and so forth. So if we can connect in more ways than virtually, I think that's a path to healing as well.
I love when you say connection. I love that that's one of your statements. And what brings the idea that it comes to me is that if we are disconnected from ourselves, we are not going to be able to feel the lack of, you know, there's going to be a lack of empathy for other beings, a lack of empathy for the planet, a lack of empathy for the animals that are dying because of the trash, going back to the topic. So how can we connect with ourselves if we are not embracing or acknowledging our flaws, our shadow? So one of you said recently about actually stop the shame, stop the criticism, and just get to know yourself in every area, connection. And then once you're connected, you are going to be able actually to care about the other people that's around you. I love it.
That's where self-love is. I think it's one of those things that's so hard. How do you take a class in self-love, right? It's just setting that intent and the practice and finding those things that resonate with you. But that connection with self is, it's the most critical. It's sort of step number one, because until you can do that, you know, you're absolutely right. How do you connect with your neighbor or, you know, somebody in another country? It's challenging.
Well, and when we're talking about the storytelling, I'm bringing both of you together, and something comes to my mind to speak of, which is The Wizard of Oz. And you were talking, Myrna, about the shadow side. You just mentioned that. We've talked about that a little bit before. And what I was thinking about is how storytelling can allow, like you were saying, Trina, we don't really take classes on self-love. That's something that just doesn't even compute. However, when we're seeing something like The Wizard of Oz and what the Wicked Witch, and then it got translated again, there was The Wizard of Oz and there was Wicked and The Wiz and, you know, other stories that were talking about that whole concept. And I one time was in a situation where I was playing the Green Witch, that particular witch from Wicked. And at Unity in Marin, actually, we did a whole thing around that with music and dance and everything. And the minister was standing on stage, and I had a full-on costume. I mean, it was almost like, it was badass. I'll just say that. And I was completely green, and I had like a Vogue witch costume. But the whole time I was like, yeah, and I was just crawling all around him as he was speaking, and he was really talking about our shadow side and how and that's what she symbolizes in Wizard of Oz and in Wicked and Wiz. And what I've come to learn through different people, even Dr. Sue and other people, that the shadow side is cool, meaning it's part of us, and it's so important to, we have a tendency to judge the bad and like the good and push down the bad witch and only let the good witch out for airing in public when we walk ourselves around the world, around our day. And it's like, it's all part of it, and it's all okay.
That's
so
right.
I think,
you gotta love we all have a shadow, and we all have to love and embrace it and just acknowledge that. So self-love is loving that shadow and acknowledging it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's so beautiful.
Telling the truth.
Yes, yeah, living your truth, absolutely. And just kind of getting this back to the media is interesting, because I've had many conversations and debates about conscious media, and in a way, it's not just uplifting. It's not one note. Everybody's happy. Everything's fine. Don't look at the shadow or the negative side or any of that. It's really the most powerful conscious media is the one that takes you on that journey, that acknowledges the shadow side, but at the same time leaves you with some hope. So I would say that this is, what we program through Conscious Good is, we have some things that are just come in, you're gonna feel great watching this, but that really what sparks that transformation and self-love and connection is taking a universal journey, a journey through the story, through the characters that everyone can relate to. And especially, again, doing it in community. If you can go on that journey with a community in connection with other people and then have a conversation about it, that's transformative.
And I also think, so what you're saying, to go deeper with that, not that you need help with that, but what I'm appreciating that you're saying is the journey is so important. So the conscious good, I mean, the programs that you have and everyone you pull to you, like Mindalia TV actually, and then very soon Mindalia Music, which is just, sort of starting right now, is that it's, again, it's not just about, sunshine and rainbows. It's about storytelling and going to the depths of something and then coming through it, and getting to something that is worthy of conversation, maybe with the people you've seen it with, or taking yourself on a journey and learning more about oneself, or being activated to do something. I mean, I was talking about sort of taking myself a little bit out because I'm so in all the time with the environment and politics and all these different organizations I'm involved with. And yet there are times when we can really just, see some movie or some story that makes us realize, what's mine to do today? Oh yes, I do know something that I can actually do today that can make a difference in a lot of people's lives. And I can just do it because you know what? I can. I have the whatever it is that I can take or I can give or I can open my home or I can do whatever it is. And so I appreciate it, not just as a lovely way to spend an hour or two, but to also activate something in us to play more fully on this plane.
Yes.
Why not?
That's such a beautiful segue. So we have a movie of the month that we do, and so we'll select a film, have everyone watch it. We'll come online, we'll talk about it. And I saw Interstellar over the weekend, you know, the Christopher Nolan film, big budget, all these incredible actors. And another woman who I work with, we both saw it, and it was such an incredibly powerful film. But there was real sadness and grief in this film. And I can't remember the last time that I audibly sobbed from watching a film. And talking about it with her, she said, I lost my stepfather a few weeks ago. I grieved more in watching this film. So it allowed her that grief to come out. And she had the most beautiful experience from watching this film, and then to be able to talk about it with a like-minded person. And so grieving is that's a gift we can give ourselves, right? It's a part of life. And in our culture, in the United States at least, I feel like, ooh, that's scary, we don't want to go there. But really, it's a gift. It's something we all have to experience, but we don't have to experience it alone.
Yeah. And we experience it when we do. Grieving also, I know, is something that happens with people where people around them sort of say, well, are you just not over that yet? Like, and that kind of thing. So it can be really a challenge in society to move through it in our own, natural way. And I have found movies to be, and books, but I think specifically movies to be very cathartic for me. I'll go to movies, like I went to a movie and I saw, I saw the Elton John movie, that came out. And my sister always laughs at me because I find something deep in almost everything, like any commercial even, I could get teary. And I was just crying away because I was thinking, she's like, I cannot get over you, how you can find depth in even this movie. But I was like, oh my God, all along, he was wanting to have something and create something and be something. And he stayed with that. It was like such a beautiful movie of manifestation and of humanity and his own self-love. And then how he went through, a hero's journey through that, with drugs and alcohol and all kinds of stuff, and found his way through it. And so at the end, I'm just like, I'm just crying for Elton,
Beautiful.
So I mean, we can find messages in everywhere we look if we want to. Were you going to say something, Joanne?
Yes, that it's really I think it's really important what you're bringing up about the grief, because it's like only partially socially accepted. Yes, you can grieve, but with dignity and for a certain time. And other than that, no, that's not okay. I actually recently learned, because I interviewed someone that gave a very, very interesting conference about grieving, that we even tell our children, don't cry. Don't cry because of this. Oh, don't cry because of that. And we overvalue happiness, and we never give space for them to manifest if they're not feeling well. I realized that I found myself always saying, like, okay, if you're gonna be mad, then you're not coming. You have to be happy, or then you're staying home. And I suddenly realized that, okay, I'm suppressing her capability of ever saying when she is not comfortable with something.
Yes.
Now, whenever I see her that she's not feeling well or that there's something upsetting her, I'm like, do you want to talk about it? Do you want to cry about it? You want to cry by yourself, or do you want me to cry with you? And I feel that when I allowed her to be upset about things, I'm also allowing her to be happy about things, because you can't suppress only one feeling. If you're suppressing sadness, there's a whole switch that suppresses everything else. After that point, I see her that, okay, well, we're gonna cry and then we're gonna laugh, or vice versa. I really like that you are giving, room in whatever you are doing in your storytelling for people to do catharsis and explore all the feelings.
Beautiful. Yes, thank you. Thank you for that.
Well, and I think that the storytelling, again, as of course we all know, is the oldest way that we connected. I don't know if there's really any way to know when it started, but I think it just,
When fire started.
Right, right. That we could gather around when marshmallows started. No. But, even do the trees tell stories to each other? When we're learning so much about how the trees communicate so much with each other. I mean, so we know it's been something that's so ancient and so important. And also, I am thinking about the story. I even think about us kind of on not necessarily a flip side, but how we really can change our own story, and that often we really lock into a story. I think of even family stories. I think of the family stories in my own family. I have 5 brothers and sisters, Catholic mom, and Jewish dad, anyway. And the story that they would tell about a certain segment of our life, like my mom died when I was 10, but if everyone would talk about what that was like for them, excuse me, their story about that, it would be very different. And or even something that happened kind of separate from us, but was just like when we moved to Africa and what that was like for us. And we would all have different stories. And sometimes they're happy and great, and sometimes they're just like super negative, even though the experience was the same. So I'm appreciating the opportunity to, at this moment, and you guys out there listening and stuff, to kind of look at our stories, our own personal stories, or what we tell ourselves, what we tell our friends, what we wake up in the morning and kind of look in the mirror and say to ourselves, or whatever, or the story of our lives in the present day, or even the story you're saying, Myrna, with your daughter, where you were sort of having one kind of way, and then you were realizing that's not the story. The story is, let's have our emotions. Let's not have the story that we're supposed to be sunny and bright all the time. So I'm curious what you think about that, Trina, as far as our own personal storytelling.
Oh, it's so important. It's something that we just need a reminder all the time of. I think I can speak from experience, just saying, oh, this is the kind of person I am, and this is what I like, and this is what I don't like. And then it was really interesting. Just over a year ago, a colleague said, what would your life look like if you were living without any fear?
Ooh.
And I really sat with that. And it was interesting how, I had this story about being a business person, a filmmaker, and all of this. And I realized that if I was living with less fear, my life would look more like an artist, and I really started looking at artists that I admired, primarily for their fearlessness. But just this idea, yes, that we are writing our story every day. And the story that we wrote last week does not need to be the story that we have today, or that we, write for our future.
We are allowed to do a plot twist whenever we want.
I love that. Yes, we are. Thank you.
I remember something that I used to do as a little girl. My dad, I did a bunch of cool stuff, but I remember my dad would point out to me, he'd say, it's funny about you, because you would be sad about something, and then you'd forget about it. And then you try to remember, what was I sad about? What was I sad about? He's like, but you forgot about it. You could just let it go. It was something I did when I was like 6 or 7 or something. And I guess I liked the feeling of being sad about that particular thing, but he found it very peculiar. And as I look back, I find it a little peculiar too.
That's fantastic. It's interesting you say that you're one of 5. I'm one of 7.
Oh.
And I'm the youngest of 7.
Ooh.
And what I talk about family and stories, it was, oh, your sister Nina is the singer, your brother Ron's the doctor, your sister Catherine's the actress. It was like everyone had their role, their story, and I was, oh, well, what's left for me? I'm interested in that too. I like singing and acting and business and that, So sometimes you're absolutely right. You have to defy the story of your family and also that personal story. So, and I think film is such a beautiful way of doing that. There's a short that we have on our website that I always point to. It's called Slow Mo, and it's won a number of awards. It's a beautiful short film, and it's about a doctor who woke up one day, realized he was miserable, and he calls himself an asshole, and he realizes, I don't want this life. And so he creates a new life for himself that is just one where he's living his truth. And I think if we can see individual stories like that and go on that journey, it gives us it gives us inspiration for ourselves, and it can really, you know, chart a new course, a new plot twist that is living more our truth and a more happy life.
Ooh, well, there's one thing when you were talking about also being, what would you do if you didn't, the question, how would we live if we didn't have fear? You know, how would we live? Because that really is, I mean, I was thinking about the words limitation or whatever, but it really does boil down to fear. And I'm reading a book right now about wolves, and we're going to have this guest on in a little bit. And he actually works with wolves, and the research, this is so fascinating to me, that apparently we learned how to be human from wolves, and it's a big, big story that I won't dive into here, but that we really modeled our clans and our families and everything from wolves. And one of the things that I found so fascinating that this gentleman Tio kind of distilled were these 9 wolf principles, kind of like Don Miguel's 4 principles or agreements, but the wolves have 9 according to Tio. And one of them I love so much is that a couple things. The way they live their life is that they're pretty sure that today could be their last day because they live so full out. And so what they do is they do everything 150%. And so what then they also do is they have the ability to choose carefully what they do. And I thought, whoa, that's bitchin', that rocks. And so I think that's a great just principle for all of us to just play with today. It's like, if we're going to do it that big, obviously we have to edit a little bit. We have to, hone it in a little bit. And how great it would be if everything we did choose to do, that we just didn't have that fear and just like a little kid just, dove into the pool or just jumped off the mountain or, whatever it is, in a big, full, robust way. How much fun we would have all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Why not, girl?
Not only getting rid of fears, but probably selecting the ones we're going to keep. Because fear serves a purpose in our lives.
That's right.
So we're not going to just get rid of fear because it's going to be completely reckless. But let's just choose to keep a couple fears that are going to be used as fuel, probably, right?
Well said.
Yes.
Well said.
But don't we love that idea of editing? Because I think that's another challenge that we get into, at least in the modern world, where we do have so many choices of what we can do. And like I was saying, I mean, of course, I have many choices of what information I can ingest, and that's, back to conscious good and what you're doing. I mean, we have that choice, and we have the choice as creators, if we're writers, directors, singers, architects, painters, cooks, whatever we're doing, we do have this. We can hone it in, I think, a little bit. I mean, sometimes there's a bit of obligation and we need to do this or that. But I'm talking about the stuff that we all know that we do choose. And there we do have many, many choices of how we spend our day or what we put our manifesting chops on. What do we want? How do we want our life to look? Like when that person asked you that question, Trina, and they said, what would your life look like? And you said more of an artist. It's like, well, so what does that mean to you? Are you doing more artistic stuff now that you've kind of figured that out?
Yes. And I also, I think it's full self-expression. But I do find business very creative. Solving problems is probably one of my joys, and interestingly enough, so I give me a puzzle or something to strategy or problem solve, and I really enjoy that, and I find that very, very creative. But I one thing I just on this note, which is really interesting and a realization about myself in the last 24 hours, is this idea of, I always say, oh, I'm being of service. The conscious good, that's really the official name. It came about because I said, I really want to do something for the common good. I want to help mankind. womankind. And then I thought, well, wait a second, I'm going to do something for the conscious good. And that's how the name came about. But I have a tendency to take on a lot and just give. And I'm doing it under the guise of, I'm doing this for, a better world and for the, the conscious good. And then I realized, well, wait a second, don't become the martyr. That's giving too much and becoming that martyr and identifying with that story is not a form of self-love.
Yes.
Right? So that's where the editing comes in, what we're talking about.
Well, and again, that's I think the most important thing, and I know that we're going to invite you back on, Trina, because we're going to be wrapping up our conversation in the next 2 minutes. But I think what we can leave people with, or at least what I'm feeling from you that I would like to leave myself with, is that we can, we can choose. And we can feel into what is ours to do. And that's something that I always like to tell other people as well as myself when we are faced with how many things there are to do in the world for the animals, for the children, for the air, for the birds, for the environment, for the politics, for the everything, for ourselves with food. And it's like each day, if we can give ourselves the permission to do what does feel good, and that might sound dismissive or easy, but I think it makes sense. And the martyr story, especially in the spiritual world, that story is, so last year.
I know.
Let's not be the martyrs. Let's do what feels good, because then it's like because we can. We do it because we can. We do it because we have the materials, we have the money, we have the food, we have the time, and let's just do it. And then we just let it go.
It's a much stronger energy, right?
There's
that if you're the martyr and everything's on your shoulders, it's like, versus this, yes, I can do this. Yay. Okay.
I love it. It's like changing the I have to for I get to.
Exactly.
I get to help people.
That's my favorite phrase to change people from is I have to I get to. I get to pick my kids up at school because my kids are safe and they have a school. I get to do the dishes because I have a home with dishes and food and family that's come together to have a wonderful meal. It totally changes the energy in those little letters that shift.
Brilliant.
So much love to you guys. I know we have to wrap it up. So Trina, I want to ask you to tell us exactly where people can find you.
Yes. So consciousgood.com, that's where you can see the media that we have curated and created. And then on mightynetworks.com, if you go to the Conscious Good Creators Network, if you're a creator and want to connect with the community and collaborate, that's where you'll go for that. And obviously, we would appreciate people liking us and following us on Facebook and Instagram at the Conscious Good.
Perfect.
So thank you for having me.
Yay! This was so great. I really love this conversation. It was very healing even after last night with the debate. So guys, you can find me on Solutionary Sundays on ABC. You can find me here next week, and we're going to have Sean Stone here next week. So that's going to be awesome. And you can also find me in Whole Life Times, where I do a lot of writing and a bunch of other stuff. And then you could just go on YouTube and put in Sunny Chayes, and then a bunch of different people like Marianne Williamson, Michael Beckwith, whoever. And I've got about 60 videos there that you can just enjoy. And, until next time, Myrna, take it away. Thank you again, Trina.
And thank
you for allowing the Mindalia TV cameras to be a channel for your ideas, for your wisdom, for your fun. And yes, we live with the idea that we get to do this. We get to wake up very early because for you it's early. Thank you. And to our audience, thank you again for being with us. Remember to like, to subscribe, not only this channel, but Spanish channel and Portuguese channel. And we are sending you a very big hug. Until next time.
Thank you.